Hello everyone and welcome back once again to another Microsoft Flight Simulator full flight video. Today we will be taking the Fenix A320 to one of the most challenging airports in the entire world. Some of you might already know which airport just by looking at the airline we are flying, but for those of you unfamiliar, we will be attempting to land at Paro Airport in Bhutan. What makes this airfield so interesting is the fact that it's surrounded by mountains from all sides, and in order to land there, we will have to navigate through those mountains first. That combined with a rather short runway, high airfield elevation and perhaps some strong winds as well should make for a pretty interesting approach. Our departure airport today will be Kathmandu Airport, located in Nepal, which is the neighboring country to Paro, so it won't be a very long flight. Now without further ado, let's jump into the flight deck. So guys, here we are inside the flight deck of the beautiful Fenix A320. Just for the sake of time, I already went ahead and set up pretty much everything that we need for departure. So I've already done the flight plan and everything in the performance calculations and all of that. I've also reviewed the weather, and also the boarding process is well underway right now. So if we take a look at the mass and balance in the aircraft, we can see that the cargo and the fuel has been loaded. We are only waiting for the passengers. 55 have now boarded the aircraft and we still need to go all the way up to 162. So that's gonna take a little while longer. So in the meantime, what we can do is we can actually brief our departure, which is something we haven't done yet. So that's the nice thing about the Fenix A320 is that Navigraph is integrated fully in the in-flight EFB here that you can see, which is the tablet that we see in front of us. So that's pretty nice. It's not particularly something new, but Fenix in particular does this integration very well, so it's quite nice to see. So this is the departure that we are going to fly. We are going to fly the Igris 1 Echo departure. I've recently updated the nav data in the Fenix, so that's why we can now fly this departure. So basically the goal is going to be to depart from runway 20 to this waypoint, and we are going to start to make a right turn with a maximum speed of 220 knots, so we cannot exceed that. That's obviously because of all the terrain surrounding this airport. Then we are going to continue via these waypoints, another altitude restriction here. We need to be at or above 7,500 feet, maximum 230 knots, and then we are going to continue, and our transition will be the Kimti waypoint. So from there we are going to continue our flight to Paro. So yeah, that's pretty much the departure procedure. If we take a look at the airport chart, in order to get to the runway we are going to push back facing pretty much northeast, and then we are going to taxi via Foxtrot to the Alpha holding point, and then we are going to backtrack just a little bit and then depart from runway 20. The weather here at this airport is not particularly nice today, but that's okay. We have terrain radar and we can rely pretty much on our navigation display. As you can see there, the irises have finally aligned, so we can use that. If we zoom in a little bit, we can see the flight plan a little bit better. So looks like the Fenix did a pretty good job with drawing this flight plan here. So with that done, we can now go ahead and set up our MCP here. I'm pretty sure there wasn't any altitude restrictions, so we'll just go ahead and enter our cruising altitude instead, which is flight level 310 today. Not that high for this flight, but it's also, as I said earlier, quite a short one, so that's to be expected. So yeah, that's all we need to do. The Fenix has taken care of the rest. Put the speed and lateral navigation in managed modes. So yeah, that's all fine. Also now we can go ahead and start the APU, since the passengers are getting on our airplane and we want to give them some fresh air, of course. So if we go down here, You always have to wait for the flap open message to appear. There it is. So press the start button and we can also engage the bleed right away. So yeah, basically now that we've set up the entire aircraft, all we need to do is wait for the passengers to finish up boarding. We still have quite a ways to go, so yeah, in the meantime we'll just sit here on the ramp, let the APU do its thing, and then I'll see you back at pushback. So there we are, the boarding process has finally finished up, so we can dismiss that notification and we can also go ahead and give the pushback truck a call now.
Cockpit to ground.
So he will come and connect himself to the aircraft, and as you can see we have pretty much a full house today. So every seat in the aircraft has been taken, which is going to make it a little bit more tricky to land at Paro, but we'll see how that goes. And if we take a look here, all the ground services have been disconnected, so that's all fine. We can go back to the charts and pull up our ground chart again, like so. And now we can also start preparing the aircraft for our pushback, so beacon light can go on, all the fuel pumps are on, seatbelt signs are on, APU bleed.
All doors and hatches closed and all ground equipment is removed.
Transponder on there.
Brakes are set. You may lift. Parking brake set. Lifting the aircraft.
And we've also received our final load sheet, so it seems we have an extra of 3 passengers today.
We are cleared for start and push.
And apart from that, everything seems to be the same as I programmed into the FMC at the beginning of the flight. So we'll release the parking brake here for our pushback guy.
Brakes are released. Commencing pushback. You can start the engines in sequence. It will start in the sequence.
There we have our startup clearance, so we'll set this to ignition. This will automatically turn off the packs, and we can go ahead and start with engine number 2. We'll monitor a rise in N2, and there's the fuel as well, starting to see a rise in EGT and N1 as well. And then we'll monitor the fuel temperature and pressure, the oil pressure and temperature. They are both in the green right now, so that's great. So there we go, the the pushback has been completed, so this guy will now disconnect from our aircraft. We are still waiting for engine number 1 to finish up.
Roger, good engine start, cleared to disconnect. See you at the side. Have a good flight. Holding position, waiting for the visual. Thank you and goodbye.
There we have the pushback truck getting out of our way there. Would be fun to see if he actually stepped out of the pushback truck and then showed us our gear pin, just like better pushback in X-Plane, but that's sadly not a feature yet. Maybe it will be added soon. But yeah, there we go, engine number 1 has started as well. That means we can start doing some things in the flight deck here. Auto brake to max, flaps to 1, spoilers armed, ignition back to normal. And we want a trim of down 0.1 degrees, and we'll do a quick flight control check as well. Like so. Flight controls look good. Takeoff config test. Everything is green, so that's good as well. So yeah, we are ready to taxi. Taxi light on, and we can release the parking brake. And here we are, guys, at the end of runway 20. We are just making our final turn to line up with the runway here. There we are, that's good enough. We'll stop here for a second, and we'll do our final takeoff checks. So transponder to TARA, spoilers, flaps are set, takeoff config has been tested, all the lights are set. We'll give the flight attendants a final call. Anti-ice not needed, everything else is good to go. Can turn on our terrain radar here, just so we don't crash into a mountain on takeoff, of course. So yeah, apart from that, we'll switch to the departure chart here. Confirm one more time our intended routing here. So the speed restriction here is the most important thing of this departure. So yeah, we'll take that into account, and now we are ready for departure. So here we go. Here we go, guys. Start our chrono as well. Slide forward pressure on the stick here. Throttles to 50%. There we go. Man flex 50 degrees, SRS, and auto throttle blue. There's 100 knots. V1, rotate. Past the rate of climb, gear up. And we are climbing away safely. Here we go. Aim for the flight director, of course. Gonna make that right turn soon. There it is. So the speed restriction is actually high enough so we can retract our flaps here already. So we'll do that now. Speed checked and flaps 0. Go ahead and turn on the autopilot right about now so we can concentrate a little bit better. Runway turn off lights and taxi lights can go off, we no longer need those. And spoilers can be disarmed as well. And now the aircraft is taking care of our RNAV departure here. Staying well clear of all of the terrain surrounding it. Ooh, we have a double rainbow here. And a very nice view of Kathmandu. And there we go. So we are now free of the speed restriction during the departure, and we are now well on our way to Paro airport. So yeah, I'll leave you guys with some nice views of this flight, and I'll see you guys back at the top of descent when we are going to brief all of the arrival procedures and approach, which is definitely going to be a fun one this time. So yeah, I'll see you guys then. Welcome back to the flight deck, guys. Here we are cruising at flight level 310. the aircraft has already asked us to enter some destination data, so we'll go ahead and do that right now. And in order to do that, we of course need a weather report, but sadly the data link here doesn't provide a weather briefing for Paro because there's no weather station there for some reason, at least not in the sim. So I'll just go ahead and look it up on internet instead. Never mind, even on the internet there's nothing to find for this airport. So what I'm going to do, since I do have to prepare for the scenario that the weather isn't good enough at this airport and I'll have to use just the normal standard weather from the sim instead, I'm going to put in the standard weather figures instead. So 10, 13 for the QNH, 15 degrees, and we'll just go ahead and leave the wind as it is. We'll go ahead and put in our minimum altitude as well, which we'll go over in just a moment with the charts. That's going to be 10,320 feet, so 10,320 feet on the Paro, and all of that is set. So there we go. We can now leave that on this page. Still 57 nautical miles until our top of drop. We can actually zoom in a little bit. So yeah, in the meantime, while that's doing its thing, we'll go ahead and brief the arrival for this airport, which is quite interesting. So this is the arrival here. It's quite short, only 2 waypoints. We're starting from Supsu to PR 888, where we need to be at maximum 185 knots and at or above 17,000 feet. Pretty easy, standard arrival here. We do want to switch to the local QNH somewhere before this waypoint, so we definitely stay clear of all of the mountains. Now from there we are going to jump onto the RNAV approach for runway 15, which is this approach right here, with a transition at Papa Romeo 888. So we are going to fly this routing here. At this point we probably want to be at 30,800 feet. Up until this point we need to be at maximum 145 knots. So at that point I want to be practically fully configured for landing. And from there we are going to descend all the way towards the runway to a minimum altitude of, like I said before, 10,320 feet. Now the minimum altitude is set right above the runway, so we do want to descend at a much higher rate than the mentioned 3.5 degree glide slope that is on the chart here, because otherwise we'll never make it to the right altitude in time. So we do want to descend steeper than that, considering or assuming rather that the weather is good enough to see the runway, because if it isn't, we obviously have to change the weather, because I'm not going to fly back to Kathmandu. Of course, that wouldn't be fun for the sake of the video. So if the weather isn't good enough for this landing, I'll just go ahead and change it. But yeah, for now we'll assume that the weather is good enough to make this a visual approach, because it is practically a visual approach, or it is used that way at least. Transition altitude 80,000 feet, so that's going to be right before the Papa Romeo 888 waypoint. Go around is basically to follow this procedure here in case we need it. So yeah, we'll hold that PR 777, and from there, if we should go around, we'll just rejoin the approach once again. But I'm going to assume that we won't have to go around this time. I've done this flight a couple of times in practice runs, and I wasn't able to land this aircraft the first time around, the 2 times that I did this flight, but hopefully today I will be able to do just that. But yeah, we'll obviously prepare for the worst. It is quite a challenging airport to land at, but yeah, we'll see how this goes. After we land, of course, this taxiway seems to be a bit too thin for an A320, so we'll just backtrack instead and then taxi to the ramp at taxiway Alpha. So yeah, that's everything for the arrival. We'll go and do the arrival performance as well. So we're landing on runway 15. We'll assume that the runway conditioning is dry. And according to SimBrief, our landing weight is 66.0. and obviously we don't have any oh, my bad, that was supposed to go in this box, of course, 66.0. And I don't know anything about the wind, so we'll just assume it's 150, like so. So yeah, as you can see, with low auto brake we wouldn't be able to make it. With medium we just about can make it, but I'm going to use max reverse on this landing, of course. So that doesn't do much to shorten our landing distance, but we should be able to make it with our current weight. Speaking of weight, we'll take a look as well if we are below our maximum landing weight, which we aren't at the moment, but yeah, I'm not really in the mood to enter a holding pattern just to wait for the weight to reduce, so we'll just do our best and make do with what we have. So we'll just land with our current weight instead. Here's our first speed restriction here, so the aircraft is going to reduce its speed to 185 knots already, quite early in the approach, but that's completely normal in this part of the world, since you really need to be slow in order to navigate through these mountain ranges. So yeah, there we go, the aircraft is now leveling off to allow for the aircraft to reduce speed, and I'm going to extend the spoilers as well, just to help the aircraft maintain the descent path here. There we have the spoilers. Yeah, so far the weather isn't looking very promising. I see a lot of clouds surrounding the mountains here, so the chances are that we are going to have to change the weather here on our approach, but so be it, if it allows us to land at our intended airport. Yeah, so far everything's going quite well. I've turned on the terrain radars on both displays here, just so we can keep an eye on that, because the last thing that we want to do is crash into a mountain. So yeah, in order to comply with the speed restriction, I'm going to extend the flaps already, and we are going to get a flap warning here for just a second, but that's fine. Yeah, otherwise we wouldn't have been able to get as slow as 185 knots without deploying some flaps already. We are getting a bit above the descent profile, but that's fine. We should be able to keep up with it once the aircraft has reached its speed. Oh yeah, we can also reduce our altitude once again. Gonna go all the way to 13,800 feet now. And according to the navigation display, we should be able to make that at this point right here, which is fine. So yeah, guys, I'm pretty sure the weather is not going to improve once we get to the airport, so I'm just going to make sure that we are able to land and set the weather to the clear skies preset here. And now we should be able to land at our airport. And also make sure that we are in fact at the right altitude, because the last thing we want to do, of course, is crash into a mountain. And we weren't quite sure about our altimeter setting here. So at this point I'm going to select flaps 2 already, just to allow for some more drag. And the airport should be somewhere over there, so in a few moments we are going to fly through there. You can see the mountains are a bit lower at that point, and that's our entrance to get to the airport. Speed is dropping a little bit, that's fine. And now I'm going to set our minimum altitude of 10,300 feet.
Terrain ahead. Pull up.
That's to be expected, the terrain warnings, and
Pull
going to
up.
reduce the spoilers now and arm them for our landing.
Terrain ahead. Pull up.
Also landing lights can go on as well, and also the taxi and runway turnoff lights, just to make my workload a little bit easier.
Terrain ahead. Terrain ahead.
Terrain ahead.
And now seems like a good time to activate our approach phase as well. So after this we want to descend right
ahead.
away, so at this
Pull
point
up.
I'm going to disengage the autopilot.
Terrain ahead. Pull up.
Gears coming down, flaps 3.
Terrain ahead. Pull up.
And flaps full. We want all the drag we can get for this approach. And I'm going to switch to flight paths vector here, and we have a descent rate of -5 degrees. That should give us quite a steep approach, but we are going to go a little bit steeper because that's the airport right there. Behind that hill we need to reach our final altitude here. I'm actually going to level out to give us some more space here. There we go. We have a nice descent rate going for us. Speed is not getting too high as well, which is fine. And we do really want to keep that nose down. And now we want to follow this river a little bit. That gives us, again, a little bit more room to descend. So landing checklists. Gear is down, 3 green, auto brakes are set, spoilers are armed. All the lights have been set. We are good to go. Just keeping this descent rate going here. At this approach you would rather be a bit too low than too high, because too high and that makes it a lot more difficult to land at this airport. It's very short runway as well. So yeah, I'm going to keep this descent rate going right until we are 100% safe on the glide slope. Still following this river, and we are now headed to that monastery over there. After that we are going to make a right turn towards the runway, and then we'll try our best to land. 1003, we are in a good position now, so we can level out just a little bit, but not too much. Still keeping this descent going. So yeah, we are almost going to make our final turn here. There we have the airport.
$500.
Checked. We are in a relatively good spot now.
400.
Keep this descent
300.
going.
Sink rate. Sink rate.
Pull up. Pull up. Pull up.
40, 30, 20. Retard.
And we bounced there slightly, but okay, go around.
10.
We're not going to make this. Flaps 3.
Speed, speed, speed.
Positive rate, gear up. So yeah guys, as you can see there, we bounced on the runway, which isn't good. So yeah, that was a big failure on my part, but doesn't matter, we'll just try again.
Terrain ahead. Pull up.
If you don't succeed at first, then try again, of course.
Up. Terrain ahead. Pull up.
I am, however, not going to fly the exact same approach again. We are going to turn around in just a bit, and then we are going to do a other type of approach that isn't in the approach chart, but it does work, and it will give us the same runway as before. Also, something I noticed that we have a slight tailwind, it seems, but yeah. So once we get
Terrain
above
ahead.
these mountains,
Pull up.
okay, yeah, we no longer need the terrain radar now. It's quite annoying in airports like this. I'm going to switch to heading mode real quickly, and I'm going to change the approach here for the RNAV for runway 33 instead, and then you'll see what we are going to do. We are not going to land on runway 33, but we are going to fly towards that runway, and then we'll make a visual approach for runway 15 once again. So yeah, we'll start that turn right about now. So the plan now is that we are going to fly past the airport, and behind this hill here we're going to make a left turn and then a right turn descending towards the runway, and then we are going to repeat that process of flying to the left of the hill and then make a final turn towards the runway. So basically the same thing, but we are going to make a slight maneuver just before that. Aircraft is still struggling a little bit with the speed here, but we have arrived at our altitude, so that's fine. We want to be configured around above the runway, so yeah, we'll make sure we do that, and we'll also go ahead and activate approach phase once again. So we can put the speed in manage mode, flaps 2, and I'm actually going to switch to heading mode, gears coming down, spoilers can be armed once again. And flaps full. We are now fully configured for landing once again. Autopilot can come off. There we go, my aircraft. Flight directors, we no longer need those. Now it's literally just flying visual with these mountains here. I'm going to start a shallow descent already. And we'll start to make that left turn now. So we basically want to hug this mountain ridge here while maintaining a steady descent. Right about there should be good. And then you do want to start your right turn just in time so you don't crash into the mountains. Altitude is looking good. And we'll start that final right turn right about now. And the goal is to be at around 9,500 feet, I think, when you level off, so we'll make sure we get that.
Sync rate.
There we go, 9,500 feet. We are good on the vertical profile, it seems. Again, aiming for that river and then the monastery in front of us.
$1,000.
1,000 feet checked. So landing gear is down, flaps are full, spoilers armed, lights are set, everything else is good to go. already going to start this turn here a little bit earlier than before. Like so, keeping the descent going once again.
500. 400.
Really getting close up to this hill here.
300. 200. 100.
Tank rate.
50. 40. 30. 20. Retard. 5.
There we go, we are down full reverse. Whew, that was exciting. So reverse is full, spoilers are out, decelerating. There's 80 knots, we'll go manual braking. And then idle reverse thrust, I mean. This approach definitely messed up my brain today, but yeah. Anyway, we are down, guys, so welcome at Paro Airport. That landing went a lot better than the last one. We actually had all of the altitude call out this time instead of a sink rate warning, so that's great. Could have landed a little bit shorter, but that's fine. We still managed to get it down within the touchdown zone, which is the most important thing. Yeah, we'll turn this aircraft around. Like I said, the taxiway next to the runway seems to be a little bit too small for an A320, so we'll just use the runway instead. It's not like this is a very busy airport that has traffic coming in every second or something like that. So yeah. Here we are at the terminal. We'll go ahead and start the APU now, turn off our landing lights and strobe lights, as well as the turn off lights. And the terrain radar can go back on now. And we'll just go ahead and park right here at this stand to the right of us. Looks like we are going to have a marshaller as well. And that warning there was probably the brake fans that are a bit hot thanks to this landing. Yeah, we'll take care of that in just a minute. And there we go, that's close enough. Almost hit that marshaller, I think. So yeah, like I said, the brakes are hot, so we'll turn on the brake fan for a little while. And since the APU is available, we can go right ahead and turn off both our engines, as well as the transponder and then our fuel pumps. So hopefully I didn't scare the passengers away from flying with this approach, but yeah, they can go ahead and get their things ready and then leave the aircraft. Can deboard. Go ahead and give them some stairs as well, because for some reason that isn't done automatically. But yeah, so that's going to be it for this video, guys. I did forget to record the video or record the landing for the replay, but yeah, the landing wasn't really that fancy. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to give it a like, and also comment down below in the comment section if you would want to see more videos like this where we go to the most remote places on the planet and to the most challenging airports. I like doing these kinds of videos, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. But yeah, if you haven't already, of course do subscribe to the channel with notifications on, so you're always notified whenever I do upload new content, which is admittedly not really that consistent, but I'm trying my best to put out as much fun content for you guys as possible. And yeah, if you want to see more from me, you can obviously watch some more of my videos, which will be popping up on the screen right about now. And I also have a Discord server if you want to join that, so link to that in the description below. But yeah, for now, I'll see you guys in the next one. Happy flying and good landings to all of you, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.